Welcome back, Black women, and happy Saturday. Um, have you ever felt like you know better, but you can't do better, right? You keep starting everything because that's who you are, but then you keep stopping. You say to yourself and everybody that this is who you are. I am this way. But you actually find it really hard to be her in real life, like to walk that out. And you always feel like you're not exactly yourself. Like you find yourself shape shifting in certain experiences and environments and with certain people. If that's the case, today's video is for you, boo boo. All right. This month's theme has been creating your identity. Who answering the question, who are you? And we are on the last video. Um, so welcome. In week one, I walked you through who are you when your life is interrupted because I had my life interrupted by having to go to the hospital with my son for multiple unplanned surgeries. In week two, we talked about 10 things you need to let go of so you can heal. And then last week, we played a fun this or that interactive game that helped you get clarity on who you actually are. So, links to all of those are in the information box. There's a Create Your Identity playlist. Okay. Earlier this week, which is week four, I came on live and I talked about how to take all of this good identity work that I'm doing with you guys from knowing it in your head to actually doing it in your life, right? From awareness of the fact that you want to be a certain way to embodying that version of you. So, today we're wrapping up the month. We're going to talk about why being yourself can often feel so blasted hard and what's actually happening underneath all of that, what's stopping you. And this piggybacks from the message earlier this week about embodying your life with your identity and not just thinking that's who you are, but not living it, right? This is about identity in action and what it looks like to actually have a life that reflects who you are and not just say something. Walk the walk, not talk the talk. Okay, let's do this. If you're new here, hello, my name is Rushni. I'm also known online as Glamazini, and I'm a certified life coach. I am a content creator, and I help Black women heal, amplify their gifts, and create lives they love that wildly love them back. I am live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube right now. If you are watching live or on the replay, drop a pineapple emoji in the chat and let me know where you are watching from. I am in St. Louis, where spring has sprung. Kids are doing Easter egg hunts, and the weather is fluctuating all over the place from snow to 90 degrees to spring back to the 50s. We're all over the place. Okay. Subscribe on youtube.com/Glamazini if you haven't already, no matter what platform you're on. And like this video and follow on whatever platform you're watching if weekly videos about healing and creating a life you love are your thing. Okay. Hello, Tiffany, and welcome. Tiffany is in Sacramento. Welcome. I usually go live on Fridays. This week I did Wednesday and Saturday. I did Wednesday because I was trying to get 2 videos in the week. And then I did Saturday because yesterday, at the last minute, Marissa from Marissa Price Heals asked me to go see a play with her. And it was a time. If you want to see my review of the play and what play it was, on YouTube, it's on the community tab. I also posted it on my Glamazini Facebook page as well as my Instagram. So amazing. They actually have shows tonight in an hour, I think at 8 o'clock in St. Louis, if you're, there, as well as tomorrow at 3 p.m. So if you want to see an amazing play by the Black Rep, go check out that post. Okay. Also, quick housekeeping. I am doing a 14-day gentle spring cleaning challenge that starts April 1st, which is a couple days from now, which goes with the theme of April, which is create your home and your environment. Okay. More information on that now. We have a few women signed up, and I would love to have a few more. Okay. The link to join, I just dropped it in the comment section, bit.ly/spring cleaning 2026. And more on that later. Also, I will be doing a gentle movement challenge in May. And I told you on Wednesday I would have the link for you. I don't. Okay. Because yesterday I went to a play. And instead of doing that, I went to a play. And then finally, the June cohort for my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat starts June 5th. That is open. And more information on that is at the link that I just dropped in the comments. More on that later. Okay. Okay. Let's do it. So, I think I titled this video, Why It's Hard to Be Yourself, Even When You Know Who You Are. The idea was that we've done all of this good identity work, right? We've answered the question of who we are. We've understood who we are when life gets interrupted. We've put down some things that we have to heal ourselves. We've done a fun exercise that really helps us pinpoint and get clear on who we are. We even realize that it's not just about knowing who we are, it's about acting like her. But sometimes that's hard, right? So the last video that I wanted to go into is what's stopping you? What's stopping you from being yourself? Even when you say you know who you are, right? I think I did a video a few months ago called Why You Know Better But Don't Do Better. And I think the thumbnail said Why You Quit. This is a similar topic, right? Because you can know better. You can be clear in your mind about how you want to show up in the world, but still not be able to do it. So that's what we're talking about today. I said at the beginning, you find yourself starting and stopping. You find yourself saying, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and you never are her. Every day goes by and you're the same old, right? And you never actually feel like yourself because you're aware now that there's a you that you want to be in the world, but you find yourself shape shifting for some reason around other people, right? So if you've ever had a super clear sense of who you are inside yourself or who you want to be outside, what you want and what you're not doing, and then you find yourself not living like that, right? That's what we're covering today. Okay. The first thing I want to point out is the reason is not a lack of information. Let me turn off the fan. I have the fan on, you guys. Hopefully you couldn't hear that. But first I was warm. Now I'm not warm. It is what it is. Okay. It's not a lack of information, right? We talked about that on previous videos. We as Black women often have more information than we need. We can be information hoarders and not implement our information. We can think we need more information, just a little bit more information, and just a little bit more information. So the reason that it's hard to be yourself and show up as yourself has nothing to do with what you know. It's more about some of the things that are happening underneath the hood that are stopping you from actually moving from awareness of who you are to embodiment of your actual self and then living a life that reflects her. Okay, so knowing who you are is real. We talked about this for a month. Um, and knowing who you are and not living like who you are doesn't mean that you're pretending or you're fake. I want to put that out there, right? What it means, and this is what I covered in the previous video. I think I linked it down below. I think it's called Why You Know Better But Don't Do Better. What it means is you know up here, but your body has not caught up to that knowing yet. Yes. You know in your head knowledge, but you don't have heart knowledge, and you definitely don't have body knowledge, somatic knowledge. You don't have it. In the video I did a few months ago, the Why You Know Better and You Don't Do Better video, I told you guys that it was because your body is still running on the old safety scripts. What does that mean? It means you learned things that kept you safe in a previous version of your life, and you are now defaulting to them. That's what's happening when you are stuck. I know with being a woman who had multiple major depressive disorder diagnoses, I thought something was wrong with me. I always thought I was comparing myself to other people, their highlight reel, like people say on the internet. I thought, why can't I do this? I thought all the well-meaning people that gave me all of this advice told me how to do a thing, and it was just something was wrong with me, and this and that and the other. And that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. I was stuck In old safety scripts, I'm saying this on the other side of that information now, that were keeping me safe, and I was just running that program, right? Being who you are, yourself, begins with a choice and knowledge, which at this point, most of my audience have. You've decided I want to live differently. You've decided that's not how I want to live anymore. You've decided that thing is behind me. And you have an abundant amount of information. But then what do you do next? The next step is small, intentional decisions over time to create safety in your body so you can actually actualize the thing. Okay. What in the world? I don't know what that noise was. Maybe a truck backfiring? That was the strangest noise. Anyway, okay. If you don't implement small, intentional decisions over time, repeated over time, two, this is very important, create safety. That's the core message, to create safety, not choices to serve other people, not choices to burn yourself out, not choices to prove your worth to anybody, choices to create safety in yourself. Then you are never going to show up as yourself, and it's always going to feel hard to do that. It's gonna stay as head knowledge, and it's never and a dream of a life that you wish you had, and you're never going to implement it. Hi, Tamika. Thank you for my pineapple. Okay, so I scribbled down a bunch of reasons why I think it's hard for us to show up as ourselves and what we can do about them. So if you've been following along in all the videos, or if you end up watching this on the replay and end up watching all the videos in the identity series this month, I would highly recommend grabbing that same notebook where you took your notes and writing down, if you notice any of these reasons in yourself, what I said that you can do to solve, to begin to solve this reason that you're not showing up like yourself. And then most importantly, do it. Don't just write down what I said, do the solution. Okay. So I don't remember how many I wrote down. I think I wrote down like 7 or so reasons why it is so hard for you, for me, for us to show up as ourselves, even if we know who we are. Number 1 reason why it's so hard to show up as yourself. Familiarity feels safer than authenticity, right? When we act out of a need to feel safe, we develop a default. And as we get older, we choose what we know over what we actually want, even if it's not good for us anymore. Human beings are trying to feel safe. Even the most maladaptive, ridiculous person you see out here, and there's so many to choose from nowadays out here, okay, in this administration, they are trying to feel safe. It might not make sense to you why that behavior makes them feel safe, but at a primal level, human beings are trying to feel safe. Yeah? The reason it's so hard is because familiarity feels safer than authenticity. We will default to what is familiar, even when what is familiar is not necessarily good for us, right? So, for example, you know that you are no longer wanting to show up in your life as a people pleaser. However, whenever something happens in real time, you find yourself fawning and people pleasing and kowtowing because your body sees it as your default response and you think it will keep you safe. And then you leave and you get upset at yourself for doing it again. Or, like we did in the exercises, that you say you like to be alone. You need some alone time to recharge. However, every time you are offered an opportunity to serve others and be surrounded by other people, you automatically say yes when you mean to say no, because you think saying yes will get you in those people's good graces and keep you safe. Also, you have trained them. You got to untrain them, but that's a whole different conversation, right? Or You have decided that as part of your current identity, you speak up. You do not stand there silent. But your body in real time, when it's time to speak up, still dissociates when you feel flooded. That's real life. That was my real life. I don't do that anymore. She's healed past that, but I'm just saying. So we default to what kept us safe, whether or not it matches up with the identity that we believe to be us. And that's part of the reason why it's so hard to be yourself, because what's familiar feels much easier and is much easier than being authentic. And you're like, great, Rashni. Well, the hell am I supposed to do about that? I'm glad you asked because I have a gentle solution for every single one of these. So if you are a person that thinks it's hard to show up as yourself with your known or new identity in spaces because it's just easier to default to the old version of you, what you need to do is a light version of exposure therapy. You know what exposure therapy is? Where a person's like afraid of something or they don't like something. And so you just kind of like you just expose them to a little bit of it and then take it away. And then expose them to a little bit of it and then take it away. Expose them to a little bit of it and take it away. Like, here's an example. I was deathly afraid of stingrays. I grew up in the Virgin Islands. I've actually had some physical experiences with stingrays because that's what people in the Virgin Islands have. And I wanted to use them as an emblem of getting past my fear for something very specific. And so I started exposing myself to the images of stingrays, and it used to crawl my blood something fierce. I, over the years, I've gotten shirts with stingrays on them, jewelry with stingray, necklace, ring, earrings. And this one I picked up to just show you my screensaver. This would have driven me off. Whoa, that would have driven me off the ramps before. Now I see this every day. I actually think they're kind of cute. And one of these days, I'm actually going to get in the water with those jokers, and that's going to be the ultimate exposure therapy. So, how then, Rushni, do I use this? You have to make the new thing start to feel familiar in small doses. That's the anecdote to this. Make the new thing feel familiar in small doses. So instead of trying to fully be your new non-people pleasing self in one fell swoop and speak up boldly when you've never done it before and your body tends to dissociate and have that expectation, you got to choose small, repeatable moments and then build from there. So for example, what does that mean? It means make a game out of, I'm going to say no at least once this week. And I highly recommend gamifying things because it makes it seem more like you're playing and you kind of like you reframe your brain into looking for opportunities to play your game as opposed to avoiding it. So if you are a person who keeps a people pleaser who's always saying yes when you mean no, tell yourself this week I'm going to intentionally say no to something that I would usually say yes to, and then play a game. What about setting a 5-minute timer at a certain time of the day where you rest? Every day for 5 minutes before I walk in the office, I set a 5-minute timer and I sit on a bench around the corner and I just sit in the sun for 5 minutes. It's like you're exposing yourself to authenticity. What about telling the truth in a low stakes moment? I've given this example before, but like a coffee shop is always the example I give, or like a bookstore or something. You go into the coffee shop, they do something with the order, and you don't want your coffee exactly that way, or you want them to change something, or you ordered it that way, but you changed your mind and you want them to add one more pump of whatever. I don't know what they do, just say it. Or even like in a conversation with your friends where everybody's laughing and everybody's always agreeing on the same thing. And you decide, I'm going to just speak up for a second and say, yeah, I don't really like that show. I never really understood the hype. Whereas in the past, you would have just went along to get along. Right. And the whole point of this micro exposure therapy to get yourself to learn how to safely show up authentically is you are building a feeling of safety on purpose. Like you're making that feeling feel more familiar to you. Okay. Feel more familiar. Hello, Simply Natural Belle. Hi, Lori. Tamika says, this used to be me with my husband's family. Now, are you talking about the speaking of? Okay, so that was the first reason. Second reason I wrote down why it's so hard to show up as yourself, even if you know who you are. And this is nervous system. Y'all know I love to talk about the nervous system, but it really unlocks a lot of stuff. And this going to seem wild. This going to seem wild. Your nervous system reads the new version of you, this new identity that you're trying to show up in the world as a threat. Because why? Remember, I told you we default to certain things that kept us safe, right? Being yourself, think about it, is a new behavior. Being a new you is a new behavior, right? And if you think about it, your body's never experienced that new version of you, the non people pleaser, healthy eating. I take rests and naps. I say no to people. I show up I have hobbies, I whatever. Your body's never experienced that you before. Therefore, the new behavior feels unsafe until you make your body feel safe. It's going to feel wrong until you make it feel right, which is why I was talking about the exposure therapy. Your nervous system, therefore, will read you trying to show up as a new version of you as a threat. And when your body thinks it's in danger, it tries to shut down danger immediately. That's the whole point. So, what does that mean, Rushni? It means you can know that you want to be a woman that rests, but then when you sit down to rest, you have a panic attack or you feel guilty. You can know, like we did in the this or that exercise, that if you had a choice, you prefer to read something instead of watch something, but you end up scrolling endlessly before bed, or you end up agreeing to go to yet another ridiculous movie with your movie buff friend because you don't want to rock the boat. So every single time you hang out with this friend, you guys go to the movies and talk about movies and movies, when you know good and full well, you like books. Or you say, I'm a healthy eater. I'm a healthy eater. That's who I am. Okay. But on the way to the place that you always go to, you pull into the drive through and order the number 7 supersize with bacon and a giant Mountain Dew because that's what you always have. You're running on autopilot and you think you're going to starve to death. So, what's the solution for that, Rashni? Help me. The solution for that is pairing the new unsafe behavior with a already safe behavior. Hook them up, right? Something that feels safe to you already in your body, pair it with the thing that feels new and unsafe that you actually want to be you. Yes? Right. So don't just do it and just raw dog the new version of you because your body's going to read that as a threat. You have to anchor it to something that already feels calming to you so you can train your brain. So I wrote some examples. Here's an example. If deep breathing has helped you and you want to be a woman that speaks up for herself and doesn't just sit there silent, take an intentional deep breath before you say what you have to say. So calm your body intentionally and then say what you have to say. Or maybe you sit down, put your feet on the floor, shake a little bit. You grab your favorite throw, you spray it with essential oils before you rest because you want to be a person that rests, but the rest is giving you anxiety. So you couple it with something that feels right to you, your throw, your sweater, some background, some jazz, like I said, essential oils. And then you take a little nap. And then you take a little pause. You couple the two things together. Maybe you put on, like I said, your favorite sweater. You make a cup of your favorite tea or something right before you call your friend and suggest that the next time you guys hang out together, you guys do reading and crafts instead of the movie. Like you couple it with something that makes you already feel good, right? Maybe You actually enjoy eating dried fruits. Like you want to be a healthy eater. You're pulling into the drive-through all the time, but you actually kind of like dried fruits. So you pack a few of your favorite dried fruits in a bag, like dried mango or something like that. And instead of telling yourself not to pull up to the drive-through, you make a game, right? You make a game out of gradually introducing and substituting healthy for unhealthy. So this time, instead of getting in there, getting the number 7 supersized with bacon and a Mountain Dew, you get in there, you get the regular size. You still go to the drive-through. You get the regular size. No bacon this time, right? Regular Mountain Dew this time. And then you eat your fruit snacks. And then you make a game. Next time you go in and you do this, but you take that out. And you do this and you take that out, right? And so that's how you solve the issue of your body feeling like it's under attack from the new version of you. Okay. Third reason why it could be so hard for you to be yourself. And I touched on this before. By implementing a new version of your identity, either showing up as who you think you always have been or creating a new version of yourself, you're interrupting a role that has honestly kept you safe in the past. You're interrupting a role. So, I'm always talking about how when I ask a Black woman, who am I or who are you, she often cannot answer without telling me a role that she plays in other people's lives, right? And that's why I'm always working with Black women about being able to answer without saying roles. So what if the reason that you are showing up is that way is it kept you safe? You were the fixer. You are the overachiever. You are the performer. You are the first one in your family to blah, blah, blah. You are the caregiver. You are the good one, right? You are in these roles and you are in there, and those roles kept you safe and they are integral to who you think you are and how you showed up in the world. Okay. These roles that I talked to you guys about are actually identities, right? They're reflective identities. I don't think that they're core identity. I think they're reflective and they're a choice, but they're still an identity. And they were identities that you took on that kept you safe in some season of your life, or else you wouldn't be doing it. Right. So when you try to change, being the fixer, being the caregiver, being the good girl, right? Being the one that's always available, being the first one in the family that's holding up the family, being the bank account, the bankroller for everybody, being the overachiever. Guess what's going to happen to the roles you used to play? They're going to panic, they're going to freak out, and they're going to think they are being replaced and erased because they actually are. They think you're trying to kill them because you kind of are, which is a weird thing to say, but it's true. So you're like, Rashni, what do I do then? I don't want to show up as a fixer. I don't want to show up as the family bankroll. I know I've been paying everybody electric bill for the past 5 years, but I don't want it. What do I do? Okay. And this is going to seem so simple, but it actually works. I have found that talking to the role that I notice is coming up and freaking out helps to diffuse the situation. What does that look like? I acknowledge that part of me instead of pushing past and pretending like it's not there. Almost like a child freaking out, right? So, for example, like something might be happening and somebody call me and say, I need, X amount of dollars for my light bill again. Okay, this person, and you don't want to be that person. And I feel the part of me that's like, I'm the one that went to school and I owe them this and I this and I have to fix this for them and I can't let their lights go out and like all of that. I have found that almost like talking out loud to that version of me and telling it that I see it goes a really long way to diffuse the situation. So it would sound something like, I see that this is the part of me that wants to fix this. I see that this is the part of me that doesn't want them to have their lights go out. I don't want them to suffer. I see that there's a part of me that wants them to love me and to approve of me when I give them money again for the, 75th month in a row. Um, and just saying it out loud often. And then sometimes will even go further and be like, and it's okay. I am not responsible for the actions of another adult. I have given them a heads up. that I would not be paying for their light bill anymore. And I gave it to them 3 months ago. And I told them that they only had 3 months left. And now we're on month four. And so now they are an adult and they have to do what they have to do. And I have to do what I have to do. And then the next step after you kind of calm your nervous system by talking back to the role that you showed up in, the performer, the people aren't going to love me if I don't show up in the most this, that, another overachiever way. I see that there's a part of me that feels like I have to perform who I am to feel accepted and loved, but I don't want to show up that way. You talk to her. I hope that's making sense, right? You disarm her fear, that role's fear of being extinguished by talking to her. And you let her know, I'm not trying to erase you. I'm not trying to kill you off. I'm trying to metabolize you. I'm trying to integrate you into me. You get to live, you just don't get to drive. We're not going to be boundaryless and taken over anymore. And then the next step is then you choose your action, right? You choose your action. I'm not going to give this person any more money. I told them 3 months and I'm not going to give them any more money. I feel the anxiety coming up my body. I tell me, okay, you're going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay. We still not going to give her no money though. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to do that. Okay. Think Issa Rae in the mirror. Okay. We're not going to do that. I hear you, girl. You seem to be freaking out. We're going to be all right. Okay. Matter of fact, let's go get our blanket. Let's spray some essential oils on it. Let's turn on some nice music before I tell this person I'm not giving them no money anymore. And then you tell them. And this helps you integrate, like I said, integrate as in integrity, as in all parts working together. You don't have to ignore the fixer and the caregiver and the performer and the good girl and all of that. You don't have to ignore those parts of yourself. You have to integrate them. You have to bring them in. It keeps you from going like an internal war because one of the reasons you're panicking is you're having like an internal war. You ever seen Inside Out? I'm not at my apartment, so I don't have my little peg dolls. The pieces start to agree with each other. You don't have to fight, right? You don't have to fight each other, right? It puts you in the role of the leader, like you're in the driver's seat of you. You're in the creator's seat of you, as opposed to down here with all these disparate reflective identities trying to tell you how they're gonna run the show. They're not. Okay. You get that back together. Hi, Blue Isis. Good evening. All right. So reason number 4, that was reason number 3. 4, another reason why it's hard to show up as yourself, even if you feel like you know who you are, is your expectation is off about how transformation and change occurs. And you're actually right where you're supposed to be. And this is a big one. Okay. Especially for the perfectionists. Okay. Come on, perfectionists. Hello. You are in the middle of the thing. And in the middle of a thing, there's effort and it's typically inconsistent and it's messy AF. I think I've told you guys in the past, and one of the things I discovered on my own journey in therapy is I had a very unhealthy relationship with the concept of effort. And I had to learn, right? So you expect everything to happen like that, perfectly implemented, perfectly, new version of you, 100% perfectly in 1 second, absolutely no flaws. And the reason why it's hard to be yourself is your expectation is not realistic. Ooh, it's actually not hard. You're doing perfectly fine. You think you're failing. What you're doing is practicing. That's called life. That's called life. Okay. You think you are failing out, messing everything up. It's a disaster. This is a disaster. That's actually called life. You know how I always talk about life is not about waiting for the waves to stop. Life is about learning how to surf. Those are the waves. Them the waves. What are you waiting on? Okay. You have an expectation of glass. This not glass, this the ocean. Right? So you are in the stage where most people quit. And they quit because they have that expectation. They quit because they're afraid of being seen trying. They quit because they don't want to admit that they judge other people who are trying. Ooh. So now they think other people are going to judge them. Hee hee hee. I think we all have been a bit delusional, chasing perfection, and we all get it honest. Listen, waves wilding out. I thought I was going through it on my end, and I am. I have a friend, I'm not gonna tell her business, but the way she had back to back what the Fs, I said, "Oh, wait a minute." And y'all know my story. I actually thought, "Let me sit down, because hold up, she over there fighting for her life." Okay? Big waves, small waves, ripples. That's life. Like the old people say, keep living. So part of the reason it's so hard for you to be yourself is because you keep waiting for the waves to stop, or you think something else is supposed to be happening. You in the middle of the thing, and this is you. This is life. You're practicing, you're learning, you're creating, you're healing, right? We're afraid to be seen trying. We want to come out the gate perfect. We're afraid to create because we have some expectation that there will be no mess in our creation process. When have you ever seen a creation process without mess? You ever seen a baby born without mess? You ever seen a painting created without mess? You ever seen surgery with no blood? You ever seen surfing without getting wet? You ever seen life with no lessons? Girl, what? Girl, it's not a thing. If you're not making a mess in the middle of it, in the midst of it, are you creating anything? Right? That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. So it takes a mind shift because you are learning how to live out what you already know. And that's kind of how it does it. Look at how kids learn. They don't know that anybody's judging them for learning. And so they get in there and they get messy and they break stuff and they try it and they whatever. But somehow when we become a man, we decide that that's a childish thing. It's not actually. And so one of the reasons it's hard for you to show up as yourself is you have an unreasonable expectation about how learning how to embody your life will actually look. And you probably spend a little too much time judging other people who were trying to embody your life when you should have been learning from them. Ooh, I know that's me. That's me. I had done it. I'm not even gonna lie. Let me close the window. I told you guys I have the windows open until the sun go down and then I have my little light on. Right? Because sometimes we identify something in ourselves. We fear what's going to come from the outside because we were participating in it ourselves for other people. I'm not going to get into that. Okay. Healing, identity work, showing up in your life as yourself authentically and actually living your life is a journey. It does not happen overnight. You are creating pressure on yourself that will make you validly shut all the way down and quit because the goal that you've set is unmeetable. So at some point, you have to realize that it's not going to be second nature out the gate. It's going to eventually become second nature, but you got to practice. You got to practice it. You got to be a beginner, right? You got to be a beginner at setting boundaries. You got to be a beginner at speaking up. You got to be a beginner at resting, a beginner at grabbing the salad. You got to be a beginner at saying yes, at saying no, at dressing the way you want to dress, at wearing your hair the way you want to dress. You got to try your makeup. You got to try your communication skills. You got to try making friends. You got to try, right? You got to start somewhere. So the solution, I told you guys I would get a solution. The antidote to this is act like everything is small choices. You got to start acting like yourself in tiny little increments instead of being like, I'm a new person today. If you wake up tomorrow, I'm totally new. You're not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to want to break it to you. Okay. You, instead of saying I'm a new me right now, and this is forever how I am, you can just be like, I'm practicing this new version of me in the moment. I am practicing being the me that rests. I am going to practice taking naps. Right. And if you're going to track anything, don't track your perfection, track your effort. Less of did I do it and more of did I try. Less of like, did I do it right? There's no right or wrong. There's try. Okay. Yoda has a quote that's close to that, but that's not what he says. There's no right or wrong when you're trying to be yourself. You are already yourself. You're right already. You're just practicing embodying the you that you already know that you are. Right. So you got to say one honest sentence to somebody that week, right? You got to set one small boundary that week, right? You got to make a decision that aligns with who you are and then live it out. And over time, your identity will start to show up more in your life because you are making aligned decisions through small repetitions. It just keeps moving you, right? Another reason, I think this is the fifth one, as to why it's hard to show up as yourself, even if you feel like you know who you are, is because we as Black women are taught, dare I say, trained how to perform and not to be. Mm, uh-huh. We're trained. I've talked about this a lot on videos, so I'm not going to go too deep, but we as Black women specifically are trained about how to be acceptable, how to be respectable, and how to be impressive, and how to be needed. We are trained on how to be everything except ourselves. Roles that we play in other people's lives, tools in the toolbox of a system that benefits from us not knowing who we are and performing a version of ourselves. And when we stop performing, it can then feel like we've lost our value because we have been trained that our value is in what we do for others, which is wild work. You can think about it. Like, think about that for a minute. That just made me a little pissed off. Your value is in how you outperform other people. Your value is tied to your output, your approval externally, or being needed by other people. Think about that. Who is benefiting from that? It's not you. Mm, mm. Anyway, what is the antidote to being in a system that has taught most of us how to perform ourselves, but not how to be ourselves? It is, say it with me, intentional, small moments where nothing has to be proven about you, right? It's that exposure therapy. It's those small choices. So, what does that mean? Maybe this week you spend 5 minutes without producing anything. You just put a timer, and then maybe next week you spend 6 minutes. Maybe you build yourself up to 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week, and then 30 minutes every other. You know what I mean? You build up some time where you figure out how to be. What does that look like for you specifically? Is is it sitting outside in the sun? Is it watching a butterfly? Is it cackling at a comedy show? Is it, you know, playing with your hair for no outcome except playing with your hair, right? What about doing something and not sharing it with anybody? Producing something and not sharing it online? What about sharing something but not putting any filters or making it all perfect? Just throw it out there, right? How about this one? What about getting around men and practicing not caring about their gaze, what they think when you're around them, and if you're desirable? Or this is a good one. You ready for this? Brace yourself, Black women. What about getting around white people and not code switching or adjusting anything about your presentation, your hair, your tone, your nothing? Just showing up, being you, big black bold. The same you that walked in the building is the same you they get to talk to. It is what it is. I actually say that because the other day I had that exact experience. I have a coffee maker that I go to practically every morning. And I walked into the coffee maker and realized that typically nobody's over there. And so I'm just by myself. But this particular day, there was a strange person. And I felt myself adjust a bit. And then I was like, wait, why am I adjusting? And it was because it was a Wahite woman. And I was like, wait a minute. I had to check myself before I wrecked myself. Okay? Because code switching that evening or that morning was bad for my health. How about Imma just be me? How about you about to get a little Black Missouri, a little Virgin Islands, and a little everything mixed up in this, and if you don't understand me, well, then get out of the thesaurus or something, girl. I'm not gonna shrink myself because 'cause I'm 6'1". I'm not gonna do any of it. I'm just come around the corner. I'm not even gonna be quiet. Imma just talk. Imma just be my regular chatty, big Black Virgin Islands, West Indian, Missouri person self, and if you feel some kinda way about that, take that up with your therapist. Okay? Now, obviously, do that in wisdom, Black women, all right? Blue Isis says, "In real life, yes, at work, that may take time to not code switch." Yeah, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky because one of the reasons that code switching can be really, beneficial is the exhaustion of people not understanding you. As a Virgin Islander, that's part of the reason why the code switch is so great. Like, I speak to you guys most of the time in a code this is a code switch voice, and it's less because I feel the need to code switch. Well, let me say this. I code switched in the Virgin Islands because the school I went to was a school of codes, like it was a mixed school of like people from right. So this was me speaking in the Virgin Islands kind of too, but also more Virgin Island. I code switched because you get exhausted having people say they don't understand you. But that's why I said try small ways of showing up as yourself. Listen, this is spicy right here because imagine getting to say what you thought to people. I'm not saying to be disrespectful. I'm saying how many people are you surrounded by who you have to change who you are to feel safe around them? And if that is the case, why are you still around those people? That's the question. Anyway, the sixth reason why it's hard for you to be yourself, even when you know who you are, is trauma. And that's the whole thing. Trauma. Trauma trained your body to choose safety over truth. Trauma is not just what happened to you. Trauma is how your body learned to survive the thing that happened to you. Um, if telling the truth in your path actually led to conflict, if resting once made you um, be criticized and surveilled, what you doing? You used to be doing work. If being yourself made you actually be rejected, your body remembers that. So now you can absolutely know that this is who you are and feel unsafe being her because your body is still trying to protect you from valid old outcomes. Valid old outcomes. Blue Isis says, I wear festive headbands to work. That's a good level for me at work for right now. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Get a little headband action. Then change the hairstyle just a little bit. Then add one colored braid. Then every once in a while decide you're gonna stop saying one specific word and code switch just that one word. You know what I mean? Like put a new thing in your Crocs that's real extra black, like a fist. Like you just start sneaking yourself into the situation and you start feeling more authentic. Okay. So the gentle solution that I put down for showing up as yourself when you are dealing with trauma, which we all kind of are in big ways or small ways, is lower the risk that you're taking, but not the truth that you're telling, right? You don't have to tell the whole truth to everybody all the time. Obviously, I'm not telling you not to discern safety, but what I'm saying is there are gradual spaces where you can discern small choices where you try showing up as yourself more and have that exposure therapy that I told you about and teach yourself that it's safe. So if you don't feel safe speaking up, Start speaking up to yourself first. Don't even speak to other people. When you are alone in your room, sometimes you stare at the wall and in the back of your mind, you hear, listen, that's not the, anyway. When you are alone, okay, formulate the sentence in your own head and then just practice saying it aloud. That's low risk, high truth. And then you can move on after that feels safe to maybe telling a safe person. Maybe the safest person is to inbox me and be like, you said to try this. Here's this thing I want to tell some stranger. I don't have no skin in the game. Mhm. Sure. Cuss them out. Okay. I don't care. I don't care. Okay. Maybe it's better for you to write the truth. The risk of writing it down as opposed to speaking up first is an option, right? Anything you can do to build evidence for you about you that your truth exists, get to be. You don't have to shrink yourself and it's not dangerous. Even if it's not directly just going up to the person, place, or thing that traumatized you and laying big stuff on them. You don't have to do it that way, right? Start small. Tell it to your dog. Okay? Lay them loose on your cat. Tell your cat everything. Be careful with them cats, because them cats are sneaky. Okay? They might learn to talk one day and tell all your business. But anyway, okay? Another reason why it's hard for you to tell yourself to be yourself, even if you feel like you know who you are, is you are still in the janky environment, that rewarded the old version of you. You still in there. You still up in the mess, the muck and the mire, the miry clay. Okay? You were down in the miry clay, and Jesus saying, put you on the rock to stay. You still in there. Girl, them cats. I had cats, okay? Don't play with them cats. They probably know how to type. Probably got a blog all about your business. Got a TikTok telling people everything you told them. Be careful with them cats, okay? Be careful. So maybe it's hard for you to be yourself because you still in the mess, sis. You still in the janky environment where you are rewarded for being inauthentic. That's the simplest thing. You in the job that loves this janky version of you. You in the friendship that loves the janky version of you. You in the church that wants you to pretend to be someone else. You with the man that wants you to pretend to be someone else. People and systems who benefit from who you used to be or who you do not want to be ain't gonna want you to change. They're gonna be friction. There's gonna be silence. There's gonna be pushback. There's gonna be persecution and attack. So the gentle solution is get the hell up out. Sorry. I mean, but it's true. I gotta start. The first solution is, sis, you got to leave. That's the first solution. Now I know that that's drastic. Okay. We're doing incremental stuff. That was not a small. Rushni, you just told him a lie because you told him small. Okay, let me hydrate. I just told y'all small. I got spicy on that. Hold up. Hold up. Let me see if the answer is in the water. Okay, she's back online. Small choices. Small choices. Okay. How about limiting your time in that harmful environment? If you can't fully leave yet, limit the time. Some kind of how. Turn down the volume on them. Some kind of how. Limit where you practice the growing version of yourself, right? Just like I said, maybe you have a season where you order in from takeout and eating healthy all at once, and you're transitioning from one thing to the other. You're increasing one. Maybe you have a season where you're practicing your growth in, safe spaces with the friends who can handle it, but you still kind of kissing people's butt at work, but we know that that's just temporary. So if you can't leave, which is number one, spend less time there, which is number two, keep some spaces neutral until you can actually build the strength to show up as the version of you that you want to be in that space. That's kind of what Blue Isis was talking about on her job and code switching. Maybe you practice boundaries in one relationship that can handle it first, right? Maybe you bring the real self that you expect you want to be into one place. There's a bookstore, there's a coffee shop, There's a hair salon where you feel like you could be your whole authentic self. Go up in there and practice. You're actively and intentionally choosing where your energy goes. However, I do highly recommend if you realize once you get a taste of being yourself, you're not going to want to stay in the environment that rewards the old version of you much longer. So just be careful, okay? Because it's going to make you want to not. Every time you go back in, it's going to be like you're trying to shove a plant, a tree back in a pot. Okay. But start small. And then is this the last reason? This is the last one I wrote down. The last reason, not, this is not an exhaustive list, of course, of why it could be hard for you to show up as yourself, even if you know who you are, is you are tired. Imagine that, Black woman. You're exhausted. We are exhausted. And somebody needs to say that aloud and just let it sit for a second. Acknowledging that the collective exhaustion that many of us feel individually and as a group exists is important. And that exhaustion can make authenticity and showing up as your actual self feel like so much effort, make the default feel like the easiest choice, even if it's not what you want, because real talk, it is effort, and the default is easier. And I just wanted to say that aloud. You might be tired, girl. You might don't have it. Okay. You might not. And that's normal. You can't access yourself when you are depleted. Black women, you can't access yourself when you are depleted. So many of us are depleted, especially putting our energies toward other people. People are extracting our energy for their own benefit, and we are left with nothing. Who is benefiting from you living a life that doesn't have you in it? It's not you. And I promise you, the person who's benefiting is probably a male or they're white or both and or both. So you are depleted and you are exhausted, and they are getting some benefit of using you in a system, and you can't access your full self in your own one live life because you are tired. What's the solution, Rushni? Oh my God, get off my neck. You have to support yourself first so that you can show up in your own life. You have to. We are trained not to. That's why we can never get up on this surfboard. We tired, okay? Exhausted. Wake up in the morning. Who's the first person I could put before myself? Who's the first? When was the last time you flossed, girl? When was the last time you got 8 hours of rest? When was the last time you drank the water you said you was going to drink? When was the last time you did something that brought you joy? When was the last time you read a book when you say you love right? When was the last time you did anything for yourself? Why are you wearing a bunch of clothes off the clearance rack that you don't like in a color that you think doesn't even look good on you? I mean, if you can go on the clearance rack, at least get the color you like, right? You have to put yourself first and start making small choices that are self-caring and self-full, not selfish, self-full. Too many spaces teach us, specifically Black women, that self sacrifice is our portion. Love it. Not saying it's not a good thing. Absolutely noble, beautiful, and how Black women show up. However, they know that's how we show up. We will not leave anybody else behind, except we will always leave ourselves behind. Stop it. Not on my watch. Don't do it. Not anymore. Go back and get you too. Put your oxygen mask on first. Drink your water. Eat something. Do your thing first before you pour onto other people. You can't pour onto me from an empty container, because when you pour from an empty container, you pour in your fumes. Me want your fumes. Girl ain't got nothing in there. You pour in the swill on the bottom of the thing on me. Talking about I got you, girl. You don't have yourself. How can you have me? Personally, me, myself, personally, I no longer like to be around people who don't put themselves first. Okay. If you're a Christian, the greatest commandment says that you have to love others like you love yourself, which means that how you love God is how you love others and how you love yourself. Christian Smith talks about that in his ministry. I've always thought that. I'm like, this whole thing of not loving yourself is the gag. That's a misinterpretation from a colonized lens, an extraction lens. Okay, if you even read the scripture, that's not what it says. And if you're not a Christian, same thing, same kettle of fish, as we say, right? Well, I just said, so glad we're learning to say, get somebody else to do. Not only get somebody else to do it, but do it for ourselves. We are always going to show up in community. Black women are always going to show up in community. There is a reason why so many people get on the internet and say that when they were younger or when they have their children, if something happened, they tell them to go look for a Black woman. Why is that? It's because it's in us. It's in us to care for everyone else and to sacrifice ourselves, and the systems we live in know it. So the reason it's hard for you to show up as yourself in your own lived life is because you literally be trained. You've been trained not to, and you're tired and you feel guilty for putting yourself before other people. But sis, I don't want your fumes. I want you pouring on me from a full cup. Let me tell you something. When you have lived a life with a bunch of people self-sacrificing onto each other, everybody's not doing their own thing because everybody's so busy taking care of each other. It sounds noble, but there's something different. There's something different about when you are surrounded by women that are full. It just feels better. It feels like sunshine and moisture. Crispy edges on a pancake, okay. Collagen and juiciness. I'm not coming out of your lack. We both like that. Okay. I'm a leash sucking the living daylights out of you. And then I'm going to other people demanding that I can't get my needs met from anything that I can't make my own self the center of my world. I got to get it from somebody else. So now I got to go out here and hop on somebody else's back, try to suck them dry at the leash. What if what if we all put on our own oxygen masks first and then gave from our abundance? What if imagine that, Black woman? Could you imagine? Rest and then show up for other people. Eat something and then have the hard conversation. Drink your water and then make the decision. Go get your hair done and then volunteer at the event. Get rid of all those, um, I don't know, olive green sweaters. You don't like olive green on yourself. You just bought them because they were on sale. You know you like mustard yellow. If you want to be, a little frugal, hit up the clearance rack at like one of your favorite bulk stores, a little TJ Maxx, a little Ross, a little something. Get you a couple, three mustard yellows. Stop sacrificing you. Everyone's sacrificing you, including you. How, Sway? Not on my watch. I don't want it. It's a wonderful thing. I have started stocking my life with healing, genuine, full, expansive, abundant, girl, moisturized, articulate Black woman. It's the best thing ever. Why aren't we all doing this? Okay. So the reason it's hard for you to show up as yourself is because you're exhausted. You're being sucked dry by a system and you're still participating in a system that will suck you full, dry, leach out of you, full stop, leave you on the side of the road, and you are participating in it. Stop it. Right? Sometimes your block is not an identity block. Sometimes it's valid fatigue. And so you have to do something different. Support yourself first and then give. And prioritize that support. Because if you don't do it, no one else will. I promise you, they'll suck you dry and we'll all be standing over a box. Big Mama died at 63. She took care of everybody else. She was so selfless. Like I said last week, don't even have any idea where Big Mama went to high school. Don't know a daggone thing about that woman. Don't know that Big Mama used to write poetry. Don't know that Big Mama wanted to be an artist. Don't know that you know nothing. All you know is she make a mean mac and cheese. And whenever I called her, I could drop the kids off. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. I'm just saying, I mean, okay, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, integration, as I said earlier, is the art of not just knowing a thing, but doing a thing. Integrity, integrity. Like think of like a table with four legs. A table with four legs will stand because it has integrity. It will stand. You take one of those legs off, and unless you move the table to where the legs are, it won't stand. It lacks integrity. You take another leg off, it lacks integrity. So integration is the art of standing on it, doing it, walking the walk, doing the things you already know. You cannot force yourself into being yourself fully. Shame is not a long-term motivator. I don't care what people on the internet do and tell you. It's just not. Studies show shame will get you to do things in the short term, and then you will just go back to what you were doing and hide it from people even more. It actually makes you dig in deeper. Do not become your own neglector and abuser. You get to be you, right? You get to create safety for you to show up as your authentic self incrementally and become her, create her. What does that look like, Roshni? It looks like talking nice to yourself. When you find yourself criticizing yourself in your mind, um, grab that thing. Hold on to that thought. Hey, hey, who said that? Why am I talking to me like that? Huh? Would I talk to somebody else like that? Would you talk to a friend that way? Start practicing talking to yourself the way you would talk to a friend. If all you know is how to talk horribly to yourself and be participate in continuing your inner critic monologue, what would you say to your niece if she said that to you? What would you say to your friend? And then start talking to yourself that way. Another way that you can incrementally make yourself feel safer so that you can show up as yourself is make slower decisions. Slow down. Moving quickly often leads to the default. The default might be the unhealthy, unsafe thing you are trying to change, right? I told you in a lot of the other solutions, take smaller risks. You don't have to go from I don't speak up to full out TED talk in this toxic family member's face by tomorrow. That's not going to work. You're going to bust your head open to the white meat, and then you're going to be like, ooh, speaking up doesn't work. No, take smaller risks. Start small. Say it to yourself in the mirror. Tell the barista at the coffee shop, hi, I ordered 2 shots of this and not 1. Start small, smaller risk. The next thing you have to do to create safety is you got to repeat. There has to be repetition. There has to be consistency. You kind of have to do it again. You kind of have to do it again. And you kind of have to do it again. And you kind of have to do it again. This is not a one and done thing. That's why it's called a journey, right? Black women, how do you create safety? You need to rest more. If you're a Black woman in the United States, there's a chance that you're not resting enough unless you have intentionally started to put rest in your world. You need to rest more. Black women, you need to drink more water. So many things in the human body hang on how much water you drink and how much water you put in. It's one of the smallest things you can do to make such a big difference. Also rest. Those 2 things alone will change your life, right? Black women, you need more nutrients. Specifically, we need vitamin D. And I don't mean the fun kind, although we need that too. I mean vitamin D and vitamin K like sunshine, okay? And if you're not getting enough sunshine, supplement. It'll help you show up more as yourself because you have the energy. Black women, we need more laughter. And sometimes we don't feel safe to laugh. And so we might need to get around other Black women. Okay, so we could key without even having to say a word. You need to be more intentional. We need more light. We need more showing up for ourselves. And most importantly, we need to build the muscle of self-trust that we know that if nobody else is going to do it for us, we're going to do it for us. We're going to show up for us. If we busted our head today, guess what? that was a hell of a wave we got tomorrow, right? And we get up the next day and we trust that we're going to get up and live in our own one lived life, right? I wrote down here identity shifts are not a personality shift, there are shifts in safety. You got to keep doing this thing, small things, long enough for your body to believe that you are who you say you are. And once you start to feel safe, right? Once you go from a woman like me who for 40, let's see, 48 years of my life was deathly afraid of stingrays to thinking that stingrays are cute. No nervous system activation, got them all over the place. Got them all over the place. Okay. Then you're not going to have to try as hard because it is going to be who you are, but you got to start small. We need vitamin D. Okay. I highly recommend the fun kind. Okay. Unfortunately, it's attached to a man. Well, not all of them. Hold up. That's not what listen, that's not what the video is about. Focus. Okay. I'm talking about this kind. Okay. Everybody focus. Rein it in. Right. It makes a difference. As a Virgin Islander, I can attest. I'm talking, girl, a minute in the sun in the morning makes a difference. A minute of intent. I sit in the sun. Sometimes all I have is a minute to crack my window open and just sit in a sunbeam like a cat. Makes an immense amount of difference. I also take vitamin D every single day. Okay. This kind. Amen. That's the kind we need. So once you create that safety, it becomes a lot easier for you to shift yourself from what you know to who you are and actually live it. Amen. Amen. If you would like to work with me as your coach, you can do so by checking out the link on the screen, glamazzini.com/coaching. Amen. It's also the first link at the top of the information box. I am doing a gentle 14-day spring cleaning challenge starting on April 1st, which is a few days away. Every day, we're going to focus on one simple task to clean and clear and reset our space. I put together a shoe cabinet yesterday that has been sitting in the floor of my apartment in pieces, the box, the styrofoam, and all the pieces for 2 months. Yeah, I felt it. Vacuumed and everything, the space already feels amazing. Little, nothing that big. I'm not going to have you guys put together a shoe cabinet, but I'm just saying we're going to just do some small things for 2 weeks. And by the end of the 2 weeks, your space is going to feel lighter. It's going to be reset. We're going to be ready to go into spring. So if you're interested in joining, bit.ly/spring cleaning challenge, the link is on the screen and it's in the information box. I mentioned the movement challenge I'm going to do in May, and I said that I would have a link. I don't have a link for you guys, so just look for it next week. Next month, let's see, theme is going to be creating your home and your environment, hence the spring cleaning challenge. Amen. And then, of course, my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat, June cohort starts on June 5th. Create Your Life is my group coaching offering and my planning retreat all in one. I've put them all together. Bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. It starts with identity work through self-paced videos, modules, audios, and a workbook that help you clarify who you are, what matters to you most, and then build a unique plan to create your next year with intention. And then the June cohort gets 9 monthly group accountability calls with the other planning retreat participants and a community discussion space that you can talk to in comments, etc. And you meet with me once a month. Well, actually, we do co-working now. So if that kicks off for that group too, we'll also be doing it because the December group has been doing it and it's been amazing. If you are interested, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. The price goes up on the first of every month and the links are where the links go. Also, speaking of the planning retreat, December ladies, our 4th co-working call is on Sunday, April the 12th. And our 4th accountability call is on Sunday, April the 19th. And there's a coupon code for $10 off in this for the spring cleaning challenge in the discussion part of your specific planning retreat. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Blue Isis. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged. And I should be back to my normal schedule next Friday, I hope. My son is actually still he's still healing from his surgeries and he's supposed to be having his sutures removed next week. So I'm a little I don't know. I'm a little listen, from glory to glory. So just pray for us. He's having sutures removed on Monday. And of course, that might change a little bit of how his wound is happening. If you don't know, my son had 3 unplanned back surgeries at the end of February and the beginning of May. So that's where we are. Be well, you guys. Be encouraged and keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Here's the pineapple. Bye, y'all. Bye.